Hey guys, what's growing? It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Behind me is my climbing rose trellis out in my front garden, and it's going to be the first to get tackled today. I'm also going to tackle my pillared roses in the back. So come along with me where we talk about pruning climbing roses. I had intended to do this a couple days ago, but we got 3 days of rain, which is a blessing, and it was also a nice rain. We did have a few heavy downpours here and there, but for the most part, it was a gentle, just kind of steady, light rain, which gave us about 1.5 inches over the 3-day period, and which is very welcome indeed. But that means I couldn't go outside and do much work. Also, I had stomach flu, so that kind of kept me hung up as well. But we're out here today getting ready to start. So I don't have any shrub roses or tree roses on my property. I just have climbers. And in general, I mean, I like roses. I don't have anything against them. But in general, like I've said before, I don't really like things with thorns on them. So the fact that I have roses is kind of funny. But I just really wanted them for this trellis. It's an entryway into the orchard part of the garden, and it's a really beautiful rose, very highly fragrant rose too. So these guys are, and I think I said last time we spoke, I think I said they were 2 years old. This is their 3rd year actually, which means my pillared roses are going on their 4th year. So these are well-established roses. They are very large at this point. They were in little 1-gallon pots when I first put them in, and now they have a lot of canes. The thing to know about climbers is they have 2 types of canes. They have the main canes and laterals. Main canes grow straight up. They're kind of tough, more woody, but they don't flower. It's the lateral canes that flower. However, you can tell a main cane to send off more laterals if you train it past 45 degrees, between 45 and 90 degrees. So that indicates to the buds that they should put up lateral canes, and then you'll get more flowers. So the best way to have flowers from bottom to top of a trellis or wherever you're training them is to have as many main canes going 45 degrees or less, or more, 45 to 90 degrees around your trellis, so that you'll have more and more lateral canes. Now, these guys are pseudo-dormant. Even though we get down in the 20s, it's not cold enough here in the wintertime to completely turn them off. So I tend to do all my pruning right around the end of January, early February. I always think about it around the time of the Super Bowl. I'm not a football fan, but that's just when I remember to do my rose pruning. So I have a lot of really pretty rose hips on here. There's still leaves on some of these canes. And so what I'm going to do to start with is the usual. I'm going to look for dead material, diseased material, deformed material, and then I'm going to look for crossing material. It's not so important in climbers because they kind of get all jumbled anyway, but anything that's rubbing against something else that will cause damage to stems, I'm going to take that off first. So the 2 things I'm going to need for this project, my pruners, and I might need loppers as well because some of these canes are huge at the bottom, and rose gloves. So important. These things are way thicker than normal gardening gloves, and they have gauntlets on them so they come up, because otherwise you just get ripped up. These roses specifically these are worse than the ones I have in the back. So thorny. Yeah, like lots of thorns. So I'm going to wheel over my my green bin because I'm actually not going to compost these. It just makes it a little bit tougher when turning compost to getting stuck with thorns and stuff like that. So I'm going to just compost these in our green bin. I'm going to wheel that over so I can just put things directly in there and not have to worry about picking them up later. And then I'm going to get started on cleaning up the 3Ds and anything crossing, and then we'll move forward from there. Okay, so it actually looks great. I don't see any disease. I don't see any dead material. I mean, I might come across some things while I'm working, but it looks really good. So the next step, identifying your main canes. Now these are the guys that come out of the base of the bush and work their way up. And then the things that come off of them are called laterals. Okay, so for instance, this is a main cane. This is a main cane. This is a main cane. This one I think more of as a lateral coming off of this main cane. So off of this main cane, you can see it has to go up quite a bit before it hits some laterals. Now, one thing you don't want to do is cut back your main canes more than a third of what they currently are, because it will take them a very long time to grow. So the laterals grow super fast every year, and we're going to cut all of those back to within 2 to 3 inches of the main cane that they're on. So in this case, right here, the thing is, so here's a main cane. I am not going to do 2 to 3 inches right here because that would get me about here, and there's no buds on this part of the stem. So I'm actually going to come a little bit longer and cut right here. Now normally on regular roses, you want to cut in the direction, you want to cut off right above a bud in a direction you want it to grow in. But with climbers, since we're teasing them into trellises and stuff, that doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to start with this guy and just start working my way from the bottom to the top, taking back the laterals to within about 2 to 3 inches of the main canes. Okay, so here we go. You will see that it is dramatically cleaned up, dramatically cut back. I tried to weave in as many of the main canes to a 45 or more degree angle as possible. And all of these laterals will produce stems. See, there's a bud right there, and there's a bud right there. These will all be stems that grow new branches that will carry flowers. Okay, so that's that one. Now this is this one over here. These main canes here are so strong at this point that I can't really bend them more than they are bent. But I did do the same thing, and I tried to cut back as much as I could. We have plenty of buds. And here's one right here starting. There's just buds everywhere. So those are all gonna form. Here's a brand new leaf getting ready to unfurl. They're all gonna form new branches, and this thing will flower yet again this year. So here we are in the back garden, the cottage garden, and my overgrown, very healthy climbers. These are Joseph's Coat is the variety. I actually do not remember what the variety is for the front garden. I took the tags off and I totally forgot, but these are Joseph's Coat. Let me show you. So you can see main canes. This one has 2. This makes it way easier because the rest of these are laterals. But you can see how much, this is just one season's worth of growth. Here's the next one. So we have these trained to go, that one has 2 main canes as well. We have these trained to go up these posts, but as you can see, we got very few flowers down at the bottom because I couldn't train anything around the post at the bottom because those canes are so tight. Now we're going to try it with some of the laterals and see what we can see happen, but you can see how crazy this is. This one down at the end doesn't have as much growth, and I think it may just have more shade than the rest of them. Okay, so the same thing holds true here. I'm going to clean up a lot of the laterals. I do see little bits of like, you know, dead or dying material that need to come off, which is normal. I'll remove some of the more spindly growth, and then I'm going to cut back the laterals quite a bit. Some of the laterals I will try wrapping because they are more flexible. And even though they are not main canes, you can get a lateral to act like a main cane. So, for example, let's say one of your main canes grows out to about 8 feet, and then at the end it's just kind of like a foot or two of kind of spindly material that won't really handle flower well, but there's a long lateral cane coming off of it. You can cut off that main cane at where the lateral joins it, and the lateral can become the new main cane. So you can retrain these things to do what you need them to do, but that 45 to 90 degree rule still holds. That's how you're going to get blooming around your entire structure. So I'm going to get to work. Well, that's job done. I took off a lot, as you'll see, but that's they grow so fast. All of that, I prune it twice a year. All of that growth was just the second half of the year, so they just go crazy. But I'll show you what I did, talk a little bit about each one, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so the first one, as you can see here, only has 2 main canes, but it does have some big laterals, this one being one, which I need to, as it gets longer, train around this post low so that I can get some blooms down below. Now, one of the cool things about having all the thorns is that they can act as supports for bending things. So I have this one lateral here that I have supported by that thorn. It will put off, like this bud will go straight up, it will produce flowers, so I will have some flowering down here. And of course this is at about 45 degrees, well maybe 50 or 55. So that will hopefully send up some shoots as well. And then, you know, as we go, we're kind of lacking some stuff in here. So hopefully I'll get some side buds, like there's one right here. And I have to keep a watch on them because when they're young, they're nice and flexible. But if you let them go for too long, then they just are too woody to bend and they snap. So I'll keep a real close eye on them and start to train some around the lower post. We won't have any problems up here, but you can see how I was able to get these guys pretty much at 90 degrees. They will send up lateral shoots straight up, and those will all flower. A little bit more luck over here. Again, the whole bottom of the post, though, completely empty. So I did prune down here with the hopes of energizing some of these shoots to grow, and I will train them around the lower part of the post here. Also, if I get some longer shoots coming off of these, I can pull them down and train them down there as well. And I took a lot off the top because they want to grow up. They want to grow tall, so they always grow all the way up into our eaves and everything. So I have no problem with the stuff growing tall. It's trying to fill in down below that I need to do. But you can see this is a nice lateral cane here that's at 90 degrees. Here's another one at 90 degrees. Here's another one. That one's hooked in from last year. This one's at about 45. So that is the goal, because that's where your, like I said, your flowering stems come from. And then there's lots back here. Okay, so this guy here, there's one cane down here. It's a lateral that I have it at 90 degrees. I'm hoping that some of these will get longer, that I can wrap lower around the post. And they will. It's just a matter of me catching them when they do, like I said, to be young enough for me to twist them. So like this one's nice here at 90 degrees down there. This is as much as I can get it to bend. Same thing here. But I've got a number of them almost at 90 degrees. And then of course they'll grow straight up from there. And the same thing with this guy. So a number of them at 90 or between 45 and 90. That will give me more laterals that will produce lots of stems. Like here's a really good example right here. You see that? All of those buds are going to be flower producing. It's really not hard at all, and you kind of can't mess up with roses. The way you can mess up with climbers is if you take a main cane and cut it real short. So like I said in the beginning, you don't want to cut your main canes back more than 1/3 of their length. You can cut them way back, but if you do that, just be prepared that it'll be maybe 2 or more years before you get flowers again. So, you know, if you need to do a major refresh, let's say you moved into a property and the roses were so overgrown and so horrible and just looked awful, you could do a major shear back, cut them real close to the ground, you know, a foot or so from the ground, and they will regenerate, because roses are actually very hardy. But you will sacrifice blooms for a couple of years, but that's okay, because it might be the rejuvenation that your plant needs. So it's all dependent on your circumstances. Those guys, I just need to keep a closer eye on this year. I tend to prune them once and then forget it, and then all of a sudden in midsummer, they're going crazy and I cut everything back. But if I keep a closer eye on them, like I said, when some of those lateral canes start getting long enough to twist, they'll be soft and pliable at that point, and then I can tie them in at 90 degrees or close to it, and I'll get way more blooming. And because my goal when I planted those was to have flowers from the ground up, to have those posts, those pillars completely covered in flower. And that's not happened yet. And mostly that is user error. So I'll just keep working on it, but we will get there. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one.